feels like obviously there's no introduction needed for this Carthage team.
Like you transition to Carthage, start talking about KJ.
Yeah. They obviously they just won their 10th state 4A division. Well, they just won the 4A Division II state championship a couple months ago, and under Coach Scott Surratt, he got his 10th ring. And it just seems like a program that always has dudes. And like you said, we'll transition right into it. We'll talk about running back, KJ Edwards, the number 6 prospect in the state. You rated him as the 2nd best running back in the state of Texas in the class of 2026. He rushed for over 1,700 yards, 23 touchdowns, catching 31 passes for 382 yards and 3 scores. And he's got over 40 offers. And he's looking at programs like Baylor, SMU, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama. The list is huge. All the big time programs want KJ there,
and deservedly so. I mean, he put up big numbers last year, but he is lightning in a bottle. I think that's the best way to describe his skill set on the field. He's a guy who can make people miss in tight quarters. And if you want to watch our entire breakdown on the top 5 running backs in the class of 2025, you can hit texasfootball.com/recruiting, where we go in depth about KJ Edwards and what makes him special and what a college might get when they sign him. But what Carthage Bulldogs fans have to be excited about is that he is a true workhorse back, a guy that you can rely on to move the chains on any of the downs. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield as well, so he's not a liability on third downs, and he's just so fun to watch. We watched his tape here in the office and just had a blast. This running back group in 2026 is just sick. It's loaded. But KJ Edwards has one of the funnest highlight tapes, I feel like, in the country. If you love football, you should check him out.
2026 wide receiver Junior Henderson collected 64 catches for over 1,000 yards and 18 touchdowns as a junior in 2024. And he's got offers from programs like North Texas, Texas State, UTSA, Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, Tulane, and more. What do you like about Henderson?
Well, he's a field stretcher. He went for over 1,000 yards last year. Really picked up a lot of touchdowns. He's a guy who can move the sticks. He can be a true red zone threat. He, one of the things that I really like about him is how he adjusts to the deep ball. I guess you can really see that on his tape as he was able to climb the ladder and go pluck the ball out of the air, but he makes good adjustments and tracks that ball pretty naturally as he's trying to make tough catches with defensive backs draped all over him. I look at his list and I'm a little bit surprised that there's not more P4 schools on it. There's a couple on here that did a pretty good job of making early offers, but I feel like in the spring evaluation period, when people go out and see the production that he has and the frame that he has.
I was going to say 6'4", 180. I mean, that's...
more P4 offers are going to come for Junior Henderson.
I think so, too. Moving on, let's talk about quarterback play. We'll talk about 2026 quarterback Jet Surratt, standing at 6'1", 170, obviously the son of head coach Scott Surratt. Passed for 3,378 yards and 53 touchdowns. 53 touchdowns, you said? 53 touchdowns. That's exactly what I said. And he's got offers from Colorado State, Houston, Texas Tech, UNLV, UTEP, and UTSA.
Obviously, he's the son of the head coach, so he has a high football IQ, but his production was ridiculous last year. And I'm really looking forward to what this season brings for Jet, because I think he's going to have a really big year this year, because I think he's going to be 100% healthy, a guy that can really take command of that offense. And what I really love seeing with his development is the confidence that he's starting to play with. I feel like he's always been a very confident leader, but I feel like he's really buying into it now, and his senior year is going to probably be his most productive. But he's got a target on his back now, because they won the state championship last year. Like last year, they had something to prove because they got beat in 2023. So there was some extra motivation there. So I'm pretty intrigued to see not only how he deals with the pressure of that now that they're the, returning champions, but how the whole team deals with it, right? Because now people are going to be coming after you. They want to win the ring. You're the benchmark. Right.
But this team's so loaded. It's
fun.
Hard to see them not making it back to AT&T Stadium this year, but it'll be fun to watch quarterback Jet Surratt at the home there
for sure
this year. Moving right along, let's talk about 2026 linebacker. DeQuivis Beck, 6'1", 205. We've got him rated as a 4-star prospect. He earned defensive MVP honors after a dominant showing in the state title game this past season. And schools like Baylor, Texas A&M, SMU, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State are in the mix to land him. Yeah,
he's one of the most heavily pursued linebackers in the Lone Star State in the 2026 cycle. He's already rated as a DCTF 4-star prospect. So he's just like a known commodity, right, on defense. I think he's naturally going to get a lot of comparisons to former Carthage star linebacker Kip Lewis, who's at Oklahoma. And naturally so, because they have similar size. But they play pretty differently, I would say. Kip to me they both fly around, but I just feel like Beck is more of like a hard knocks type of linebacker, a guy who really isn't afraid to square you up and put you down. And Kip Lewis will do that. But I think of him as more of a pursuit guy, where I think of Beck as a guy that just loves to lay you out.
Yeah.
And I think we saw some of that in the state championship game. A lot of colleges have taken notice of that as well. And they're pretty aware of his talent, right? Like he's just like one of these guys who he's been a multiple time all district winner, but 102 tackles and 21 tackles for a loss last year. His production speaks for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Another linebacker in the class of 2026 there at Carthage is Carson Crawford, and we've kind of already talked about him a little bit, most recent Texas State commit, but he was one of those breakout stars in the state title game this season.
Yeah, for sure. Carson Crawford, I think, was right there with Beck for defensive MVP honors. I think that was like the most hotly debated one in the press box. I think that people were like really vocal about Carson Crawford or about Beck. I think Crawford was one of those guys that, for a lot of like the big time guys who cover recruiting, was more of a surprise, right? I think people in Carthage knew plenty about Crawford heading into that game. But for some of the people who may have never watched the Bulldogs play before that, he was a true eye-opener. And a lot of colleges were able to take note of his presence in that game, and you saw his recruitment spike a little bit afterwards. But he's so athletic. You know, he's a guy that can really move around and do some different things on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that speaks well to his upside. He made his commitment to Texas State this week, and they're getting a guy that can just come from a top-tier program and has a high upside. I think he can develop in that Texas State program into a guy that they have to fight other programs off from coming to try to raid their roster for. You know, he's a P4 level talent, and he's going to be a big time dude at some point in the future.
Ish was so pumped when he saw that on Twitter.
Yeah,
he sent it to me. Noted Ishmael Johnson, noted Texas State alum and big fan. He sent it to me. He was like, "Let's go!" And I was like, "That's a great pickup."
I think it's fair to say Carson Crawford is like an office favorite because of how hard he plays.
Yeah.
Like he plays well. Like his hair is on fire.
Yeah.
No snaps off.
It's awesome.
Dude's just fun to watch.
Yeah. And finally, let's round it out. We'll go down to the class of 2028 and talk about athlete J.D. Edwards. Wait, Edwards.
Yeah.
Edwards.
That's right.
You mean like the younger brother of KJ Edwards?
That is.
There's
the
another
one and
one?
only.
Oh, man. He was one of the only freshmen invited to the Under Armour camp. Is
Not
that
very
correct?
many freshmen there.
Yeah, that's right. And then he's obviously already catching the attention of a couple of P4 programs. He's got a couple of P4 offers from SMU and Texas A&M.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and try to make it a combo deal, right? Like if you're trying to get
no kidding.
KJ Edwards, you might as well go ahead and get JD Edwards.
Correct.
Like KJ, he got some varsity action last year as a freshman. KJ got some varsity action when he was a freshman. JD, I think, will add a new wrinkle to this offense next year because I see him lining up in the slot. He worked out at wide receiver at the Under Armour camp and showed off that he's pretty quick. You know, I don't know what he ran in the 40 or anything like that from that camp, but watched him go in and out of his breaks. He's pretty speedy.
Yeah.
So he's going to bring something different to the table, I feel like. And now that he's got a little bit of seasoning under his belt, has watched his brother go through the recruiting process, he's the next one up.
You know, Coach Surratt's like, yes, let's go.
Whenever he was coming into the program, he's like, another Edwards, the brother of KJ. And
he's like, I'll take it.
Then you see him run, right? Like, yeah, future's bright for the Edwards family and the Carthage Bulldogs because JD is the next rising star in that program.
Well, looking at this list, I think the future's bright for a long time for the Carthage Bulldogs. I don't think they're going away anytime soon.
No.
This is a stacked roster.
Been a pretty consistent dominance out there in 7-5-6-3-3.
Absolutely.